5 smart phrases that make you sound wise. Not angry. Stoicism. Stoic wisdom. 1. Help me understand your perspective. One of the greatest signs of wisdom is the ability to remain calm and curious when others become emotional. Most people enter disagreements with the mindset of defending themselves. They listen only long enough to prepare a response. They are not seeking understanding, they are seeking victory. This approach often creates more conflict than resolution. Stoicism teaches that the wise person values truth more than being right. Instead of viewing disagreement as a threat, they see it as an opportunity to learn something new. That is why the phrase, "Help me understand your perspective," is so powerful. It immediately changes the direction of a conversation. Rather than creating a wall between two people, it builds a bridge. It communicates respect, patience, and self-control. When someone feels heard, they become less defensive and more open to meaningful discussion. This simple phrase shows that you are secure enough to listen without feeling attacked. It demonstrates confidence because confident people do not fear other viewpoints. They know that understanding another person does not require agreement. By choosing curiosity over confrontation, you gain knowledge, strengthen relationships, and earn respect from those around you. The Stoics believe that wisdom begins when we stop assuming we already know everything and start listening with genuine interest. Many people spend years wondering why their relationships are filled with arguments and misunderstandings. The answer is often simple. They speak more than they listen. They focus on expressing their own opinions while ignoring the experiences of others. Yet every person you meet carries a unique perspective shaped by different challenges, experiences, and lessons. When you ask someone to explain their point of view, you gain access to knowledge that would otherwise remain hidden. Even if you disagree with their conclusions, you can still learn from their reasoning. This mindset reflects true Stoic wisdom. Instead of allowing the ego to dominate the conversation, the wise individual seeks understanding first. They recognize that every disagreement contains an opportunity for growth. By making this phrase part of your daily life, you will discover that many conflicts lose their intensity before they even begin. People naturally respect those who are willing to listen because listening has become increasingly rare in a noisy world. Think about the last time someone completely listened to you without interrupting. Chances are it made you feel respected and valued. Human beings have a deep desire to be understood. When you offer that gift to others, you instantly distinguish yourself from the majority. Most people are waiting for their turn to speak. Very few are genuinely interested in understanding. The Stoics understood that influence is not achieved through force. It is achieved through wisdom, patience, and thoughtful communication. By saying, "Help me understand your perspective," you create an environment where meaningful conversations can occur. You become the person who brings calm into chaos rather than adding to it. Over time, this habit strengthens your relationships, improves your decision-making, and increases the respect others have for you. There is another reason this phrase is so effective. It protects you from making assumptions. Many arguments are not caused by what people actually mean. They are caused by misunderstandings. Someone says one thing, another person interprets it differently, and conflict follows. The wise person refuses to assume. Instead, they seek clarity. They ask questions. They listen carefully. They gather information before reaching conclusions. This approach aligns perfectly with Stoic principles because Stoicism encourages us to respond based on facts rather than emotions. When you seek understanding before judgment, you avoid unnecessary mistakes and gain a clearer picture of reality. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher often reminded himself that every person acts according to what they believe is right. Whether they are correct or mistaken, they are operating from their own understanding of the world. Recognizing this truth makes it easier to approach others with patience instead of anger. The next time someone challenges your opinion, criticizes your actions, or disagrees with your beliefs, resist the urge to react immediately. Instead, calmly say, "Help me understand your perspective." You may discover that wisdom enters the conversation the moment anger leaves it. 2. You may be right about that. One of the rarest qualities in today's world is the ability to admit that someone else might have a valid point. Most people are so attached to their opinions that they see disagreement as a personal attack. The moment their beliefs are challenged, they become defensive. They raise their voices. They interrupt. They search for evidence to prove themselves right. Yet Stoic wisdom teaches that this behavior is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of insecurity. True strength comes from being confident enough to consider the possibility that you could be mistaken. This is why the phrase, "You may be right about that," is so powerful. It immediately separates the wise from the emotional. It demonstrates humility, maturity, and self-control. The average person wants to win arguments. The Stoic wants to discover the truth. There is a significant difference between those two goals. When your goal is to win, you stop listening. You become focused on defending your position at all costs. But when your goal is truth, you become willing to examine every perspective. You recognize that learning is more important than protecting your ego. This mindset allows you to grow while others remain trapped by pride. The phrase, "You may be right about that," reflects this commitment to truth. It tells the other person that you value understanding more than being correct. Many people assume that admitting another person might be right somehow weakens their position. In reality, it does the opposite. It shows confidence. Weak people cling desperately to every opinion because their identity depends on always appearing correct. Strong people understand that being wrong occasionally is part of growth. They do not fear correction because they know correction leads to improvement. Every successful person has made mistakes. Every wise person has changed their mind about something important. Growth becomes impossible when pride refuses to allow learning. Imagine a conversation between two people. One refuses to admit any possibility of error. The other calmly says, "You may be right about that." Which person appears wiser? Which person appears more confident? Most people naturally respect the second individual because humility is often a sign of genuine intelligence. People trust those who are willing to acknowledge limitations. They recognize that such individuals are guided by reason rather than ego. This simple phrase has the power to transform conflict into cooperation because it removes the need for constant defense. One of the greatest obstacles to wisdom is the belief that admitting a mistake somehow reduces your value. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Every mistake acknowledged becomes a lesson. Every lesson learned becomes wisdom. Every piece of wisdom gained strengthens character. The person who never admits mistakes remains exactly where they are. The person who learns from mistakes continues growing. This is why Stoics viewed humility as a strength rather than a weakness. They understood that personal growth begins where pride ends. Think about the most respected people you have encountered in life. Chances are they were not individuals who claimed to know everything. They were people who listened carefully, considered different viewpoints, and remained open to learning. Their confidence did not come from pretending to be perfect. It came from knowing they could continue improving. This mindset allowed them to develop wisdom while others remained trapped by arrogance. The phrase, "You may be right about that," reflects this attitude perfectly. It communicates that your self-worth does not depend on always being correct. The Stoic philosopher often emphasized the importance of continuous self-improvement. He believed that wisdom required honest self-examination. A person cannot improve if they refuse to acknowledge weaknesses. They cannot learn if they believe they already know everything. By remaining open to correction, we create opportunities for growth. This is why wise people welcome feedback, even when it is uncomfortable. They understand that criticism, when examined carefully, can reveal valuable truths. There is another reason this phrase is so effective. It lowers emotional tension almost instantly. When people feel that their opinions are being dismissed, they become defensive. They argue harder. They become more emotional. But when they hear, "You may be right about that," they feel acknowledged. Their need to fight begins to disappear. The conversation becomes calmer and more productive. This does not mean you must agree with everything they say. It simply means you are willing to consider their perspective fairly. That willingness often creates mutual respect. Imagine how many relationships could be improved by this simple habit. Friendships would experience fewer arguments. Families would have fewer conflicts. Workplaces would become more cooperative. Many disagreements continue unnecessarily because both people are focused on defending themselves. Neither side wants to take the first step toward understanding. Yet the wise person understands that peace is often worth more than pride. They know that preserving relationships is frequently more important than winning debates. Another important lesson from Stoicism is that no human being possesses complete knowledge. No matter how educated, experienced, or intelligent someone becomes, there will always be things they do not know. Recognizing this truth creates humility. Humility creates openness. Openness creates learning. Learning creates wisdom. One of the most overlooked signs of wisdom is the ability to pause before responding. In a world that rewards instant reactions, many people feel pressured to have an immediate answer for everything. They respond to criticism instantly. They react to insults immediately. They make decisions in moments of anger, frustration, excitement, or fear. Unfortunately, what is spoken in a few emotional seconds can create consequences that last for years. Stoicism teaches that wisdom is not measured by how quickly you respond but by how carefully you think. This is why the phrase, "Let me think about that," is one of the most powerful statements a person can use. It creates space between emotion and action. In that space, wisdom has an opportunity to emerge. Many people mistakenly believe that pausing makes them appear uncertain or weak. In reality, the opposite is true. A person who rushes to answer every question often reveals insecurity. They feel a need to prove themselves immediately. The wise person understands that thoughtful reflection is more valuable than a quick response. They are comfortable taking time to examine a situation before reaching a conclusion. This patience demonstrates confidence because it shows they are not controlled by pressure or emotion. They trust themselves enough to think carefully before speaking. Imagine receiving harsh criticism from a colleague, a friend, or a family member. Your first instinct may be to defend yourself. You may feel misunderstood, attacked, or disrespected. In that moment, anger whispers that you should respond immediately. Yet the Stoics would advise something very different. They would encourage you to pause and reflect. By saying, "Let me think about that," you interrupt the emotional cycle before it gains momentum. You give yourself the opportunity to determine whether the criticism contains truth, whether it should be ignored, or whether it requires a thoughtful response. This simple pause can prevent countless regrets. One reason this phrase is so effective is that it communicates maturity. Most people are accustomed to conversations filled with impulsive reactions. They expect arguments, interruptions, and emotional responses. When you choose reflection instead, you stand apart. You show that your words are guided by reason rather than impulse. This often earns respect even from people who disagree with you. They recognize that you are not reacting emotionally but responding thoughtfully. Over time, this reputation becomes one of your greatest strengths. The Stoics believed that emotions themselves are not the problem. The problem occurs when emotions become the masters of our decisions. Anger can provide energy, but it should not control speech. Fear can provide caution, but it should not dictate action. Excitement can inspire enthusiasm, but it should not eliminate judgment. Wisdom comes from placing reason in command. Every time you pause and think before responding, you strengthen that ability. You train your mind to act deliberately rather than automatically. Consider how many relationships have been damaged by words spoken in haste. A single sentence delivered in anger can destroy trust built over many years. Friendships have ended because someone reacted without thinking. Careers have been damaged because a person allowed emotions to dictate their actions. Families have experienced unnecessary pain because people chose immediate reactions over thoughtful reflection. Most of these situations could have been improved by a simple pause. A few moments of consideration can save months or even years of regret. The phrase also demonstrates humility. It acknowledges that you may not yet have all the information. Instead of pretending to know everything, you admit that careful thought is necessary. This mindset aligns perfectly with Stoic principles because Stoicism encourages us to seek understanding before judgment. The wise person recognizes that first impressions are often incomplete. They understand that reality is usually more complex than it appears. By taking time to think, they avoid the trap of making decisions based solely on emotion. There is a story often associated with Stoic practice. When faced with a difficult situation, the wise individual does not ask, "How do I feel right now?" Instead, they ask, "What is the most reasonable response?" This shift changes everything. Feelings may come and go, but reason provides direction. The phrase, "Let me think about that," creates an opportunity for reason to take the lead. It transforms a moment of emotional pressure into a moment of thoughtful consideration. As you begin using this phrase, you may notice something remarkable. People start taking your words more seriously. They recognize that you do not speak carelessly. They understand that your opinions are formed through reflection rather than impulse. This increases your credibility and strengthens your influence. People trust those who think before they speak because thoughtful words tend to be more reliable than emotional reactions. The next time someone pressures you for an immediate answer, remember that you are under no obligation to respond instantly. Give yourself permission to pause. Give yourself permission to think. Wisdom rarely arrives in moments of haste. More often, it appears in moments of reflection. Simply say, "Let me think about that," and allow reason to guide your response. In doing so, you practice one of the most valuable lessons Stoicism has to offer. 4. That is outside my control. One of the most life-changing lessons in Stoicism is learning the difference between what you can control and what you cannot. Most frustration, anxiety, and anger come from trying to control things that were never ours to control in the first place. We worry about other people's opinions. We become upset by circumstances we cannot change. We spend countless hours fighting reality instead of accepting it. The Stoics understood that peace begins when we stop wasting energy on what is beyond our influence. This is why the phrase, "That is outside my control," is so powerful. It reminds us where our attention truly belongs. Many people spend their lives trapped in emotional exhaustion because they are constantly trying to manage the behavior of others. They want everyone to agree with them. They want everyone to appreciate them. They want life to unfold exactly according to their plans. When reality fails to cooperate, frustration grows. Anger follows. Resentment takes root. Yet no amount of anger can force the world to obey our wishes. The wise person understands this truth and chooses a different approach. They focus their energy on their own actions, attitudes, and decisions rather than attempting to control the uncontrollable. When criticism arrives, this phrase becomes especially valuable. Imagine someone speaks negatively about you. Your first reaction may be to defend yourself or prove them wrong. Yet you cannot control another person's thoughts. You cannot force them to see you differently. What you can control is your response. You can maintain your integrity. You can remain calm. You can continue acting according to your values. The moment you recognize this distinction, emotional freedom begins to emerge. The Stoic philosopher taught that some things depend on us and some things do not. According to him, understanding this distinction is the foundation of a peaceful life. When you focus on what is within your power, you become stronger. When you obsess over what is beyond your power, you become frustrated. This principle remains just as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. Every day presents opportunities to practice this wisdom. Traffic jams are outside your control. Other people's opinions are outside your control. Unexpected setbacks are often outside your control. Economic conditions, weather, and many life circumstances are outside your control. What remains within your control is your character. You control whether you respond with patience or anger. You control whether you act with courage or fear. You control whether you remain disciplined or become distracted. The phrase, "That is outside my control," is not a statement of defeat. It is a declaration of freedom. It frees you from carrying burdens that were never yours to bear. It redirects your energy toward the areas where you can make a genuine difference. Instead of becoming consumed by frustration, you become focused on action. Instead of dwelling on what cannot be changed, you improve what can. Over time, this habit transforms the way you experience life. Challenges still occur, but they no longer dominate your emotions. Difficult people still exist, but they no longer control your peace of mind. Problems still arise, but they no longer determine your happiness. You begin to understand one of the deepest truths of Stoicism. Peace is not found in controlling the world around you. Peace is found in mastering yourself. 5. I choose to remain calm. Perhaps the wisest phrase a person can say during a difficult moment is, I choose to remain calm. Notice the word choose. It reminds us that calmness is not merely an emotion. It is a decision. Many people believe their reactions are forced upon them by circumstances. They say they became angry because someone insulted them. They say they became frustrated because things did not go according to plan. They blame external events for their internal state. Stoicism rejects this way of thinking. The Stoics taught that while we cannot always control events, we can control how we respond to them. Calmness is often misunderstood. Some people assume it means weakness or passivity. In reality, calmness is one of the highest forms of strength. Anyone can lose their temper. Anyone can react emotionally. Remaining composed when emotions are rising requires discipline, self-awareness, and courage. It is easy to stay calm when everything is going well. The true test comes when life becomes difficult. That is when character reveals itself. When you consciously choose calmness, something remarkable happens. Your mind becomes clearer. Your judgment improves. You begin seeing solutions where others see only problems. While emotional people are consumed by reactions, calm people remain focused on what matters. This gives them a tremendous advantage in both personal and professional life. They make better decisions because they are not blinded by anger or fear. History repeatedly demonstrates this principle. Great leaders are often remembered not for their emotional outbursts, but for their composure during moments of crisis. When others panic, they remain steady. When others become overwhelmed, they remain focused. Their calm presence inspires confidence because people naturally trust those who maintain control of themselves. The Stoics viewed calmness as a form of inner power. They understood that external circumstances constantly change. Success and failure come and go. Praise and criticism rise and fall. Wealth and status can appear and disappear. The only lasting source of stability is found within. By choosing calmness, you build that stability. You create a foundation that remains strong regardless of what happens around you. This does not mean ignoring emotions. It means refusing to become their servant. You acknowledge anger without obeying it. You recognize fear without surrendering to it. You experience frustration without allowing it to dictate your actions. This level of self-mastery is what Stoicism ultimately seeks to develop. It is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming wise enough to respond rather than react. As you practice this phrase, you will notice changes in every area of your life. Arguments become less frequent. Relationships become healthier. Decisions become clearer. Stress becomes easier to manage. Most importantly, you develop confidence in your ability to handle whatever life presents. You no longer depend on perfect circumstances to maintain peace. Your peace comes from within. If there is one lesson to remember from this entire discussion, it is this: wisdom is not revealed by how loudly you speak, how quickly you react, or how often you win arguments. Wisdom is revealed by the quality of your character. Every time you choose calmness over anger, understanding over pride, and reflection over impulse, you become stronger. You become wiser. You become the kind of person others naturally respect. Before you go, subscribe to the channel and join our growing community of Stoic thinkers. If you enjoyed this video and want more practical Stoic wisdom to help you build confidence, resilience, and inner peace, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Remember, the strongest person in the room is often the calmest one. Choose wisdom. Choose discipline. Choose peace.